Welcome to A Better HR Business, the podcast that looks at how HR consultants and HR tech firms grow their businesses and how they help their employers to get the best out of their people. Remember, for show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Okay, let's get started.
Hello, welcome back to the show. Great to have you along. And I'm really looking forward to today's conversation with Ricardo. Ricardo, like me, has a very difficult surname to pronounce. So we're in this together, Ricardo. But Ricardo is the founder and CEO of a very cool company called BetterPic. And they turn selfies into professional headshots to save cost and time. And they look fabulous. And we're going to get into that in a second. And also, Ricardo has a secret life as an expert marketer. And that's probably one of the reasons why BetterPic is doing so well. So I'm going to try and squeeze out some ideas and information from him in just a minute. But firstly, Ricardo, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much, and thank you for pronouncing my last name actually in a very good way. So
oh, really?
I appreciate
Wow.
that. You've given your try. It worked out. Appreciate the risk taking there.
I've told other people on this show that my surname, Gagan, which has got lots of E's and G's, it used to have the red squiggly line, the spell check thing for Microsoft, Word and stuff. And the suggestion, when it said the spell check, it used to suggest egghead as the correct spelling for my surname. So I feel your pain. We're in this together, as I said.
I've got even a pain in Belgium. So where I come from, which is the south of Belgium, or at least the south of the Flanders, we can't pronounce the difference between the G and the H. And my surname is actually GH first. So I think when you pronounce your last name, like, say what? That's why I prefer to speak English. At least there I can still pronounce it.
Well, very good of you to do it in English and very good of you to share some time today. So I can try and explain to people what it is, but you describe maybe why you set up BetterPic and what does it do?
I have to say that I didn't start BetterPic. I think that's always a nuance
Okay.
I always give, which I think is important. So I actually bought the company in December 2023. It was making around $1,500 per month. And I actually saw it passing by in a newsletter. I've been actually always, crazy about buying a company one day and growing my own software company, because we used to do consulting of marketing for SaaS companies for the past 8 years. So like, okay, one day I'm going to just do it and prove it to my own that I can do it myself, basically, without the client hassle, without the back and forth, just like go full focus. But when I saw BetterPic pass by in a newsletter, and I was like, hey, that's pretty cool. Like, if that technology would work, or even technically just take a few selfies of you on your holiday and turn it into professional headshots. Like, it's one of these things that your kids would come to you and it's like, hey, dad, like, you used to go to a photographer 2 hours, change clothing, and then just select one picture for your LinkedIn. It's like, that just doesn't make sense. And I was like, yeah, that does not make sense. So I always try to think about it from that perspective, like in 5 years' time, would that still make sense of what we're doing right now? And I saw it and I was like, okay, if the technology catches up at one point and it works, why would you not do it, basically? So I think that's where the origin story came back. Is like, okay, I just realized this has so much potential. So I took over about in December 2023 and grew it from there, I would say.
Wow. I don't know how much I'm allowed to ask in the revenue side of things, but I know you've been growing and you said you started off at something like $1,500 a month. How's it going now? And then what did you do to improve that?
So we're about 1.5 years in. And so we're very transparent about the metrics, and a little bit too transparent, I would say. So we share everything from revenue all the way to bottom line, all the way to what our NPS score is, anything that's going bad, good. I like to share in advance. And I think the reason is why, because like, you get all these good stories online and then you miss the nuances. And when you're building a company, so nobody shares that data. It's like, what are you doing? Like, what's growing, what's working, what's not working? And I wish I had that when I would be starting out, basically. So we're just sharing everything that comes along. So you can ask me any question like. As of the revenue, so last month we did about $281,000 in that sense. So we've kind of grew from like last year, same month, we were doing 6 to 7K. We jumped all the way to 281K the next year.
Wow.
So it's been a journey, I would say. And when it comes to what we've done and how we got there, I would say there's a few factors. The first one is, of course, the market is completely growing. Like AI headshots, when I took over, was about 1,300 search volumes of people searching for AI headshots. It was very limited. And then when really last month, we're at 52K per month. People really searching for AI headshots, which is a very interesting factor because now, you just, the market is growing, so you're growing with that in that sense. So I think that's an interesting dynamic. And of course, the second thing is that we actually just took it very seriously. And it's very strange to say that. But like when you looked at the market 1.5 years ago, you would see about 70 to 100 competitors, which was great. But then 98% of those people were actually just indie hackers, and they're just like solo people or just two co-founders trying it out, connecting an API and trying to see if it works. And so there's only 3 players that was really taking it seriously. They build a team around it. They build a company around them, meaning there's shares, there's stock options, there's actual people behind it. We're building a team. We really have customer success. We have, marketing teams. We have product teams. So you really build a whole company around it. And we're actually only probably 3 companies in the entire world that really build an entire company around it. So we took it seriously from the beginning, which I think a lot of people miss. And they kind of saw it as this little gimmick tool until they saw that we were making close to 300K per month. And they're like, oh, so I think that's really what happened.
Yeah. I'm sure people at an earlier stage said, are you sure? Because all of the big players will create some new AI thing, and Google and Facebook, and they'll all start creating some AI image generator thing, and those things pop up all the time. So are you risking everything or risking a lot to go serious on this one niche? What was your thinking back then?
My thinking was very simple. I have a very simple mind, which is somebody has to do it. So my reasoning was very simple. Like the technology, like when I started, when the December 1st, I remember that day, because like that was the day where we took over. It's like, okay, now Christmas comes in, which was about 20 days later. So I'm sitting around the Christmas table with my mom, my partner, my brother was also there. And we're like, hey, by the way, try this. I just bought this and, let's test it out. All the results came back really bad. Like, I don't even look like this. So I thought that was really cool because I realized that we had something really bad, but that means everybody else is really, really bad. The feedback was, if it works, I would pay for it. And I think that's a very important inflection point because in the beginning, most of the things are really bad. Like I knew that we had to go through this, which I think is the first 8 months of the company where it was just really bad. We had a refund rate of 10%. Nowadays, we have about 2%, which is lower than an e-commerce store in that sense. So we just took a big bet on the team and the technology that it's going to work out at some point, and which we kind of saw in September 2024 when the technology caught up, when we got better, the flows are better. And then suddenly we started growing into exponentially. So we just took that bet basically, but we knew we had to start early.
Yeah. Can you tell listeners how it works? What can they get out of using BetterPic?
I think there's 2 sides, right? From the consumer side, you can just come in, upload 8 selfies of you, and within at least on average for right now 37 minutes, you're going to get an email back saying, hey, you can now log in. You're going to get a full photo shoot of 60 images based on the preferences that you picked. Clothing style that you want, clothing color, background. From those 60 images, we always say you're going to get 3 to 5 that we really love that you can use for social media, website, any options in that sense. So that's really how it works. And for the team sides, we also have a team size. An admin manager, marketing manager, HR manager can just log in, send invites, not worry about headshots anymore. The team will do the work. They will get it back. And you have your headshots for your entire team.
And I guess the website probably has FAQs or things like the big one is usually privacy. So I'll give you my pictures. What happens to them? Are they on the dark web or something like that after that?
After 30 days, we delete everything. After 7 days, we delete your model. And in terms of support, interesting that you mentioned, because we are the only player out there that does 24/7 support. And I think that's important, especially for newer technology. So when new technology comes in, it's never going to be great from the start. And so we realized okay, if it's not great, what is the thing that we can make great? And which for us was customer support. At any point of time, you can reach out, get a human within 3 minutes now, reach out to you and solve your case, which I don't think you can get on Amazon basically. And we're a product you can buy once. So it's an interesting case. I think it's important that if something doesn't work, you should fix it. And especially in that road curve where you're like, okay, something will always break because it's going to be improving over time basically. So I think that's an important thing for us.
Nice. Yeah. So you've described it there. And for listeners, you might have a LinkedIn profile, for example, which is just some random photograph you took against the wall. This is an opportunity to come up with something different, fresh, and also for your websites, for promotional material, proposal documents, all that kind of stuff. You can come up with something cool. For about 4 or 5, maybe longer years, my LinkedIn profile was me in a suit standing in front of a black background, but that was me in Australia. I'd been swimming in the backyard pool. I got out, stuck on a shirt and tie, My shorts were still wet from the swimming pool, and we hung a black sheet on the garden line, and my brother took a photograph because he visited and he was a good photographer. So that's how much effort I had to go to it. The other example that I thought that jumped to mind is a guy I know when he goes to a conference in different locations, some big famous HR tech conference or something like that. At the end of the speeches, when everyone sort of walked off to the next exhibition hall, he'll jump up on the stage and pretend like he's giving a speech. We've got AI to create what you want, the image you want, the suit you want, etc.
I mean, people don't change because it's too much of a hassle, but like I've met people as like, before your tool, I had a picture online with hair. I don't have hair anymore.
Classic. Yeah, so for HR business leaders who are trying to grow their businesses, have you got lessons or things you've learned on the marketing side, sales and marketing that you might be able to share, whether that be how to use LinkedIn or SEO? What other marketing things have worked for you and can you share with others?
So interestingly, when we started out, we actually posted a lot of LinkedIn posts, but from like the newsletter point of view. So on your personal profile, you can actually write, a newsletter, which then gets published on the LinkedIn website. And actually the first sales we got is coming from this article. And the reason why is because when you post on LinkedIn, basically, you are benefiting from the domain authority from LinkedIn, which is super high. And so if you write an article there, Google will say, hey, this one I know, like LinkedIn is a big authority. So it must be good, basically. We even have to say created a fake LinkedIn profile, which we posted under. And that is basically what all our articles would come because we didn't really want to pollute our own LinkedIn profiles. So we just posted under that profile as the product expert in that sense. So that is basically how we got our first sales coming through. People were searching for AI headshots, best AI headshots. We wrote an article about the top 10. We were number one. And that's actually how we got our first sales in the more hacky way, I would say.
So that's a bit of growth hacking, SEO, and also kind of content, thought leadership all sort of rolled into one. What else has worked well for you on the marketing side?
So what has worked very well for us, and we're at, I think last month was about 80K of our revenue, actually came from affiliate marketing. So that means people were posting about us, doing YouTube videos, they were writing blog articles, or they would even run ads, digital ads. And we have quite an interesting affiliate model because you get about 30 to 35% of the revenue that you make, you get from us. So that's basically how we grew quite fast. People were posting about us, mentioning us, trying to outrank us because our conversion rate on our website right now is about 9%. You don't see that in e-commerce store or anything. Like you don't have that anywhere else. So we have a very strong conversion rate from visit to website. And that's why affiliates love us as well.
Wow, that's great advice. And so for people listening, affiliate or channel partners or referral partners, as it's known in different sort of areas, but I think that's a great idea. And the fact that it's a generous percentage and encourages people to go and do it again, to try and bring in more business. So hence it's 80K worth of that total revenue. That's really impressive. Yeah.
I'll give you a tip that could work out for most people out there. So what we do is, I think back in the day, it's called skyscraper technique. So we basically type in the keyword that we want to write for, or basically that we think is interesting in our industry. We then look at the top 10 and we see if it's competitive. Not sometimes there are articles being written about it. We reach out to that person saying, hey, we'll pay you to be number one. And here's also an affiliate link to go to it. So we actually pay you, plus you get commission if you send traffic to us, basically. And I think that does two things, which I think is interesting. One is the short term, of course. People that type in a keyword to see the article, like, oh yeah, number one. Okay, let me go and search it. So they actually get commission from that. And I think the second dynamic, which I believe more in from a long-term impact, is that if you type in, for example, AI headshots or best AI headshot generator, and you see an article and we're number one, and you're a blogger, and you're like, okay, I need to write about this, you will just take the first article and write the exact same thing, just a little bit differently. So it does two things. One is you get revenue from that specific person, but also the new people writing about the industry, they will just copy whatever the first one is doing, basically. So we got a lot of affiliates by just buying the first article and then having that trickle-down effect coming in.
So copycats would see the top article, which contains the affiliate link to your site. They would then replicate, rewrite that article, and then go and join your affiliate program and stick their own link there.
Exactly.
Nice.
You would almost call it like getting Ronaldo on your shoot. Now suddenly every other smaller influencer now also wants to join your shoot. It's kind of the same effect, I would say.
the cool kid. From all you've been through in this and maybe learnings you've had over your business life, what are a couple of key messages or any advice you'd give to people who are trying to grow a business, whether it be HR tech or HR consulting business?
I think I read the most common cases on why companies fail. I think that's an interesting one. I think you can just research that. One of these things was co-founder misalignment. And I think I've witnessed that a lot. I've had 7 businesses, maybe 8 now. Most of them actually failed because we were misaligned on what we wanted to achieve in life, what our values were, how we operate, how we think about businesses, how we take decisions together. Even now, BetterPic was growing, we're fully bootstrapped. And with my co-founder, I had to lie, it's like, do we just continue like this and just live the, okay, nice life because we're making about 50 to 60K profits. You can technically live from that and have a good life. Or do we want to raise capital and go compete with Google? And we took choice number 2. You need to be very aligned with your co-founder and have very open communication, because that's technically where, if that goes wrong, all the rest trickles down, basically. So I think having a good moment and really understanding the values and understanding what the decision-making process and what the person really wants to get out of life, I think is the core thing that you have to sit down and really understand what you want to do. Even though, over the coming 3-4 years, that might change, right? But I think in the first 2 years, you need to be very aligned on what you want to have. So I think that's the first. You have to decide, are you the solo guy or are you the team guy? And I think a lot of people are really happy with just being a solo founder and just doing everything on their own and hacking everything together. I think that's great. I suck at that. I really need to have a team around me to build things. And we're now going to be about 20 people. And I always say, don't be afraid of, because back in the days, I was looking at Snapchat, Mark Zuckerberg, like they launched at 21 years old and 20 years old. Like, wow, what is this? Don't chase that. Chase the get to know yourself first. Start a business that's quite simple first, and then take on more difficult tasks, I would say. I wouldn't be able to run this business right now if I wouldn't have F-upped for the last 10 years, I would say.
Yeah, nice. That's excellent. So introspection and learn from yourself and then go from there. Before I let you go, I saw that you have acquired a new site, new business, which is more on the fashion photography, AI generation image side of things. So why did you acquire a different business?
The problem with our business is we're growing nicely, but it's a one-time purchase. And it's kind of like a struggle because every single month you start from zero, basically. So we've been really thinking about the last 1 year. It's like, okay, how do we make this recurring? You can't charge for that because actually you don't need every single month. Like, it doesn't make sense. So I've seen competitors do that. I just think it's completely crazy, to be honest, to do. We really thought about that. When we looked at the data on we call the AI studio. So when you generate your images, you get a little, toolbox to even customize your images further. And we saw that 50% of the people coming into using our studio were actually changing, swapping clothing because, like, I love the images, but man, this is not my style. So we saw that and it was like, oh, wow, there's something in this market that is really like big. And when we researched the market, we're like, okay, wow, if we build this is probably the next big thing. So we're basically building that. We're using the technology for BetterPic's, but applying it into the fashion market, which is a lot bigger, a lot more recurring. So that's basically where we're headed in that sense.
Yeah, that's very clever indeed. I saw another option, I think, on the site that you could basically buy vouchers or coupons, whatever, for others to use it, which is, again, another way of increasing their basket size or the repeat visits or whatever it may be. But if people want to buy it for themselves, for their company, or potentially to become an affiliate, what should they do next?
They can reach out to me and I can give them a custom discount code for free. So that's option 1, or they can just go to the website, betterpic.io, basically purchase a package, and within 37 minutes, you have a professional headshot. And if you let me know which ones you were, I'm happy to give you extra credits as well, so you can invite your friends. I would love to see, their headshots, I would say. I'm always happy with that.
Nice. Excellent. Well, Ricardo, I love what you've done, taking this product into the next generation, and it's really exciting to see what you're doing, and I'll certainly follow you, see what you're doing next, because it's a very exciting journey you're on. So thank you for sharing your time and insights today.
Awesome. Thank you very much for having me, Ben. I appreciate your time as well.
Thanks for joining us today on A Better HR Business, the podcast that explores the world of HR consulting and HR tech businesses. For show notes and downloads, go to www.getmorehrclients.com/podcast. That's getmorehrclients.com/podcast. Remember to subscribe and share the show with any friends who are busy growing a HR business. Thanks, and see you next time.